time to seize the day.
Now is the time to seize the day.
Send out the call and join the fray.
Send out the call and join the fray.
Bucs will be riding if we're united. Let us seize the day.
And welcome to Buc'In the News. This is for week October 21st. Week 7 of the NFL. I am Brent Allen, your host here of the PewterCast, and joined, as always, by my co-host, Ren Dax. Ren, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Jameis is back. Jameis is back.
Woo! Everybody's all smiles again. What do you think?
That's my Paul Revere.
Jameis is, the Winston is coming.
Winston is coming.
1 if by run, 2 if by throw. Probably 2. Yeah, that was certainly to me it was a surprise. It was definitely a surprise. What about you? Were you kind of expecting it, or?
I was.
Yeah.
But I will say I wasn't expecting a decision till right before kickoff.
Yeah, like game time,
game day.
Sure.
Like I thought he was going to come out, dressed to play Sunday, and then throw the ball around, and Suri went from there.
Yeah.
But his first pass today, he fired it off at Roy Cummings, so looked like everything was good.
Cutter laughed at it, and
Cutter laughed at it because he knew it was
cackled.
coming. Did you see Robert Ayers' tweet where he said that Robert Ayers says someone, and I'm air quoting someone, he didn't, but I am, bet him he couldn't hit one of them in the head for $100.
No, that's funny. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but Cutter definitely knew it was coming, and he was flat out asked first question in the and I think it was like a 35-second presser today. The first question was, "Did you tell Jameis to fire that over there?" They called it Code Pewter, making a little play on words on Code Red from
A Few Good Men.
Thank you. Almost, yeah. I wanted to say Full Metal Jacket. That's not it. A Few Good Men, and he said no comment. And then it was brought up again by a caller, sort of. The caller asked if, actually it was off of Twitter, but the question was, when Jameis fired that ball off to the reporters, was that his first read? And then Cutter laughed again. He's like, yeah, I think that one got away from him. So he went from, did you tell Jameis to throw it at us? No comment. Was that his first read? It got away from him. So, yeah. So basically, I can't say that Cutter told him to, and I don't think he would. But he knew it was coming. You could tell by his reaction that he didn't stop Jameis from doing it. Put it that way. So,
well,
yeah.
Well, if you guys are wondering what we're talking about, you can actually go. It's on. I know for sure it's on JoeBucsFan.com. They have a video of this specific throw. Jameis comes out first throw, throwing it right at the heads of the media. If you guys don't know, this is our brand new show, Buc'In the News. At least that's what we're calling it for right now, where we get together here kind of at the end of the week. All the press conferences are done. Final injury reports are out. There's nothing left to do at this point but play the game. And this is where Ren and I get to take a look at what's kind of happened over the course of the week as we head towards the Buffalo Bills game. Less of a game preview and more of a just what's going on around, a little bit of a wrap up on the week. So the way this works, we kind of actually got a little bit of a jump start on it, but the way this works is generally we open up by talking about transactions for the week. Turns out we were able to skip that because there was nothing. The Bucs did nothing as far as the roster goes this week. Then we'll talk about the press conferences, headlines, and we'll talk about the final injury report that came out as we close up and head towards the game this weekend. So, Ren, outside of the Jameis thing, or if you want to keep talking about that a little bit, because it was really funny, anything from the press conferences or news headlines, anything coming out of One Buc that really stood out to you?
Well, obviously it was Jameis, and not that he fired the ball at the media. It was more of if he can go.
Right.
You listen to podcasts this week, the opinions were all over the place. Yes, definitely he's going, all the way to definitely no, he's not going, or I would be surprised if he's going. And I kind of felt the same way. But that pretty much dominated all the press conference, all the headlines. How's Jameis? Did he throw? Is he gonna throw? How'd he look when he threw? But the media got a chance to talk to Vernon Hargreaves this week, and he did stand there and answer the questions, but it was lots of player speak. Basically all he said was, "I need to make plays. I need to make plays." And at one point, he even said, "I know what I have to do to make plays." And someone asked him, "Well, what's that?" And then he's like, "What's what?" He's like, "What do you have to do to make plays?" And he goes, "Just got to make plays, or just got to play better." Or, he opened himself up just for a little bit to give a little more information, then shut it back down. But he did stand there and, and answer the questions, sort of.
I had that down certainly as a note. He said himself that he's not making plays, which on the one hand you could sit back and say, hey, it's good that at least he's recognizing it. Well, of course he's recognizing it. How could he not? But as you said, there really wasn't much substance to, especially to any of the follow-up questions that he had, which is basically just he's got to get in, figure it out. He's going to do him, and you can't deny that he hasn't been making plays. Nobody can deny that. And, the fact that I haven't been making plays and I got to make plays. The one thing I did like, and it seems like he's at least moderately aware of, is the idea that this is a performance-based business. Because I think he said that at some point. This is a performance-based business.
I think that was, one of the first things. I think that was the first thing he said. Yeah. Or at least the first thing on the video.
Yeah, because the thing that I'm worried about most with Vernon Hargreaves is his maturity level, I think. We've heard the laughing hyena. We've heard stories of, locker room be sullen, but he'd be in there cutting up and cracking up and whatever. His name certainly was in nowhere near mentioned. Nobody's name was mentioned, but TJ Ward, I think it was, came out saying, hey, people didn't take this seriously. They took it more as a vacation. He was not, I don't know that he was pointing the finger at Vernon Hargreaves. There's nothing that would lend us to think that, but reading between the lines, kind of stacking stuff up, I wonder if maybe that was about Vernon a little bit as well. So, I don't really...
because the more you heard about that story, it was, he was talking about the defensive backs, and then he was talking about the younger defensive backs. Now, that could be, I guess, maybe you could throw Conti in there, maybe Tandy in there, definitely Evans, definitely Hargreaves, definitely Ryan Smith, but that's about it. He's not considered a younger player. Grimes is definitely not considered a younger player. I would take Conti and Tandy out of that
I would
entirely.
agree with you on that.
But, they're not old men by any stretch of the imagination. Right. They're still a couple years under 30, crooked numbers under 30. So it could be Justin Evans, could be Vernon Hargreaves, but like you said, he didn't point anybody out. He didn't say names, and it took like this, and that definitely might be a telephone game, because when you first heard the story, it was some players on defense, or no, it was some of the guys didn't take it seriously, and then you hear the story repeated a couple times, and now it's like some of the younger guys, and then the story repeated a couple times, and some of the younger defensive backs. So it starts to narrow down the more the story comes out. So, like I said, that could be telephone, people trying to hone it into, Vernon / Evans as much as they could, because, it wanted to fit their narrative.
And, even if that was a game of telephone, you still can go back and at least say he said some of the guys. And to me, it raises a red flag to go, is one of those guys Vernon Hargreaves the third? To go back to what I'm saying, one of the things that concerns me about Vernon is look, we know he has talent. We saw what he did at Florida. Like, he wouldn't have been drafted where he was if he didn't have talent. It just, does he have the maturity level and the ability to play in this league? I think that's, we talked a lot about with Roberto Aguayo and how things are mental. I think some of this might be mental with Vernon Hargreaves, I'm not saying that he's the most technically skilled at his position out of everybody, but I just wonder if that's if the mental side of it is a thing for him, the maturity side. And so to hear him saying at least he recognizes that this is a performance-based business, maybe this is the wake-up call he needs. Maybe this is the thing that's going to shake him into maturity.
And, this is the receiving core to go up against to get your confidence back. Their leading receivers are running back LaShawn McCoy. as far as reception goes. Their second leading receiver as far as reception, but does lead the team in yards, is their tight end, Charles Clay, who is out. He will not be playing. He's already been listed as out on the injury report. Their third leading receiver with a whopping 10 catches is Jordan Matthews, who's coming off thumb surgery and may or may not play. Then after that, you start to get to O'Leary and some. Everyone else has less than 10 catches. So if you're gonna take some chances and looking for a receiving core to sort of boost your confidence or be able to test your playing closer to them or press man, Buffalo doesn't throw the ball a lot, and when they do, they throw it to pretty much two guys, and one of them's out. So this could be a get right week for Vernon Hargreaves for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll just have to see. It's Vernon Hargreaves has certainly got a big fat target on him right now. Everybody's hairs are raised, and certainly the coaches are as well. And I'm glad to know he's there. So moving on from
before we move on, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The flip side of that is if he has another game like he's had, like a Minnesota game or a Cardinals game, people are going to go ballistic. This is the worst receiving core as far as numbers in the league. And if somebody goes for like 8+ catches, 100+ yards, and a TD or two, it might, next stop, could be the bench for Vernon Hargreaves.
Yeah, and I was listening earlier today to Scott Smith on the Buccaneers Insiders Live, and one of the things he was talking about specifically with Vernon is the team, they're still very much rooting for him. They really want him to work out, so they're going to give him every opportunity to redeem himself. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. But they're going to give him every opportunity to redeem himself. So, when he gets benched, I don't want to say when. If he gets benched, if he gets benched, that will be. You can probably at that point be rest assured he's pretty much done. That will be. They have hit their limit with him. Kind of thing. Now that's me. Scott's not saying that second part. That's me. What Scott was just saying was the team really is trying to. They really want him to work out. They're really trying to make him. They'll give him every opportunity he has that they can for him to work out.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go as far as say that if he does get benched, that he's done. They have so much, a high draft pick invested in him. They have him for another 3 years, at a very low cost. So, unless he does something, pulls an ASJ and goes wackadoodle on the team, I still think he'll stick around at least for 2 more years because there's always that hope that he will come around. And his contract, it's not terrible. So it's a contract friendly and the length is friendly. So benching is not the be all end all for Hargreaves, but it definitely would be rock bottom.
Oh, good point there. All right, moving on from Vernon. One thing that I'd like to bring up, one of the things that we kept hearing this week, several of the podcasts at least mentioned this and addressed this issue. We certainly saw it a lot out there on social media and various places. I believe that there was even an article written, something to this effect. But when it comes to the idea of Mike Smith, and some people saying it's time to get rid of Mike Smith. Mike Smith's defense isn't any good. It's playing soft, and that's why he keeps getting bounced around from team to team to team and whatever. I just found this really, really interesting on the Ira Kaufman podcast this week. One of the couple that he did, Steve Isbitz. He was going through kind of giving the historic defenses that Mike Smith has had. And one of the points that he was making...
When he was the defensive coordinator.
When he was the defensive coordinator, right. And one of the points he was making was that, there was, I guess, a time, if I understood him correctly, that as far as defenses in terms of points allowed, where he was number 2 in the league, his defense was. And he was right behind Monty Kiffin when he was here with the Bucs. That speaks pretty highly. And I was taking it a step further in my mind and going, okay, with the exception of this last game, so far, and correct me if I'm wrong, haven't these games been fairly low scoring? Like, our offense might not have been able to put up a whole lot of points, but really their defenses hadn't either. Like, for whatever it is on our defense, however bad Vernon's been playing, whatever, I mean, we talked about that, right? They held the Patriots, Super Bowl winning champion Tom Brady and his whole crew, to just 19 points. Like, most everybody was under 20 points. I forget what the exact score was with Minnesota, but certainly the Giants, we held them down, almost shut out the Bears, which, granted, they're not a super great team, but it's still an NFL team. They're still good players, right? So just I found that incredibly interesting and very much not redeeming, that's not the right word, but it definitely speaks to Mike Smith's favor. People are. I think with especially these last two losses in a row, and especially last week, people are looking for somebody to blame it on, and I think unfairly it might be coming to Mike Smith.
Well, the Buccaneers they look like two different defenses on the road, and then at home. I mean, on the road they gave it 34 to the Vikings, they gave it 38 to the Cardinals. At home, 7 to the Bears, 19 to the Patriots, and 23 to the Giants, and that was a fourth quarter touchdown. So I kind of know where you're going with that, but I don't think the numbers totally stack up to sort of what you're saying unless you do a home and away. And this is an away game. Let's face it. The team, especially defensively, has not been ready to play when they kick the ball off on the road. It's gotten ugly, and it's gotten ugly fast. Both those games were over at halftime.
And when you look at it, for as good as the Bucs were on the road last year, when you go back to last year, the Bucs have lost their last 4 road games in a row.
Oh, there you
go. Think about it that way. The Bucs have actually lost their not just the last 2, the last 4 road games in a row going back to last season. So
only competitive one.
Yeah. So so there's that. All right, man. Anything else out there that kind of jumped out at you from this week? Any of the headlines or press conferences? Anything anybody said?
When we were talking about what TJ Ward said earlier about maybe some of the younger guys' heads weren't in the game. Didn't treat it like a business trip, treated it like a vacation. One of the reporters, were to question sort of that point, left TJ Ward's name out of it, but definitely worded it in the treating it like a vacation, not a business. And Mike Smith got fired up, man. For Mike Smith, but pretty much for anybody. But, Mike Smith doesn't do that. He's like, he said, he's shut that down right away, giving, the psychological hint to the reporters that, that's garbage and I'm not going to put up with that type of questioning. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen, or it hasn't been addressed, but he definitely was in no mood to answer that question. And he definitely wasn't going to, even if he didn't mention a name or a side of the ball, he was not going to throw any of his players or offensive players or special teamers or guys that bring out the Gatorade or the equipment packers. He was not going to throw anybody on the bus as far as not treating that with a road trip. So this wasn't terribly interesting. It was just, like, holy cow, Mike Smith got mad. Look at that. Mark that down on the calendar.
But, that certainly affects this week, as you said. The Bucs are on the road again, and because TJ Ward said that, all of us fans are now sitting in our brain going, well, heck, what are they doing in the hotel room tonight or tomorrow or whenever they get up there? What I saw somebody say, I want to know what time their curfew is. And, but if that's not really the case, it certainly makes you wonder what actually is happening up there. Is there on the road?
They had an extra day, and
out there,
yeah. So they left on Friday. So basically they had all day during the day Saturday to sort of do what they wanted to. See the city, go shopping or whatever. And if a couple of the guys go out and go, let's go find a sports bar and watch college football, and pound some beers and chase some skirts, I could see where that would rub a veteran the wrong way, especially when you're down, 24-0 at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
And end up giving up 38, 37 points. So that's, in my mind, that's sort of what's been constituted, because I don't think these guys are stupid enough to sneak out and break curfew,
Mm-hmm.
During a game, especially, the younger guys. I guess, they would be the ones that would be dumb enough to do it, but I don't really see that happening. I think it was more of a, hey, we got a half day off, instead of rest up, take care of our bodies, let's go, raise hell in Phoenix. And I think that's where that comment came from. And that's all speculation, but that's how I get the vibe. That's the vibe I get.
Sure. All right, man. Let's hear. I got something for you. It stood out to me. I talked about Steve Isbitz from JoeBucsFan.com. I'm going to turn around and talk about his partner, Lee DeCamper. Lee's a funny guy to me. Lee's a guy that the more I've kind of gotten to know him a little bit, he tends to get focused in on one thing. It seems like he's got a new thing each week. But it's that one thing he continues to harp on, which is really funny to me. And
makes it even funnier is every fourth week he's absolutely wrong from the beginning. Like Vincent Jackson wasn't durable when he was a Buc, and it's well, I didn't miss a game for the first 3 years. Oh, okay. But but he has to say it 3 or 4 times on 4 or 5 different podcasts. So finally someone corrects him, and it's oh. Anyway,
right.
I'm sorry.
So the thing that he was saying on all the different podcasts that he was on this week, and I think he even might have wrote an article on Joe Bucs Fan. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I thought he was making a good point. I feel like this one was actually a valid point for him, and I just thought it was funny because he was saying it everywhere he went. Was talking about practice habits. I'm talking about how the Bucs have said multiple times, and we've heard coming out of One Buc a lot, that they've not had a good practice. And he was going back and even saying, even during training camp, how many times did Cutter come over and say, boy, that wasn't a good practice today? Right. Yeah, this wasn't a good practice. And then we're starting to hear about it from the players saying, yeah, we just didn't have a good practice. Cam Brate said it at one point this season. We just didn't have a good practice. And then I was listening earlier today to Levante's Bucs Insider All Access from, I guess, earlier this week. And
it was Monday.
And he had said, and I wrote it down, he said, our practice habits are bad. They don't have a sense of urgency in practice. He's saying, we'll go and they'll have one good play, and then they'll have a playoff, and they'll have a good play and a playoff. Their practice habits are bad. So, I think DeCamper might be onto something there, and I just wonder, and I don't know what the Bucs need to do or what they need to change, who needs to change, what needs to switch up. I don't know. I can't diagnose the reason why they'd be having these bad practices. I just feel like there could be something really legitimate to that. When you take the historicalness that Lee DeCamper was kind of bringing up, but also now looking at what the players are saying that kind of seem to back that up as well. So, I don't know what practice habits need to change, but maybe it's just their sense of urgency. I don't know.
Well, you got to start making them feel uncomfortable, and that all falls on Dirk Cutter, a little bit on Mike Smith because he is in charge of the defense. But that one, I think Cutter should take that that blow right to the teeth, full force, because we saw in Hard Knocks where one time he stopped practice and made him run gassers because they couldn't get anything right. A lot of times in Hard Knocks, and this could be just for Hard Knocks, was we're not fast enough, we're not doing it good enough, it's bad practice, this is pathetic. I remember one time he told the ref, he's like, don't tell anybody else in the league what you saw today. I remember that practice. That practice was god awful. So it's up to the coaching staff, in particular, like I said, Dirk Cutter, to get these guys' attention. Going back to our last pod, where maybe taking away the ping pong table and chopping it into kindling and setting it on fire will get these guys' attention. Because what it is, it's lack of focus. It's lack of focus, and it's also what do you call it when, I can't believe I'm forgetting this word, when when some accountability. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call it when someone holds you accountable? Oh yeah, accountability.
Word's
It's
on the
lack of
tip of my
account-
tongue.
it-
It's on the tip of my tongue. What is that word?
It's lack of accountability, because if one guy takes a playoff,
Mm-hmm.
offensive or defensively, and somebody sees it, somebody needs to jump in their face and say something.
Mm-hmm.
But since practices go so fast because they have a limited amount of time of trying to get these plays in, before you really have something to, before you can say something, they're already lined up and they're, you're going again, and you're lined up and you're going again, and you're lined up and you're going again. So, not bringing your all or having laser focus from play to play is real. It's real easy to hide, sort of in this ballet of guys coming in and out and running play after play after play.
You bring that up right there, and I like what you've been saying, Ren. The next time that I go out and coach a team and run a practice will be the first time I've ever done it. But I've been in practices before. Now, granted, it was in high school. But these practices run about an hour and a half to 2 hour and 45 minutes, somewhere in and around there, where they're in pads out on the field. Which I think is about normal for what we practiced when I was in school as well. But, it seems to me, and this would be more of a question I'd want to ask the coaches, because I don't know what their thinking is through it. Listen, if a guy goes out there and he has a bad play, where do you stop and coach him? Like, where do you stop and call the team together and like correct the mistakes right there? Like, why are you just barreling through? Because I know what you're saying of they're just going play, and I get they have the cameras, they go back and they watch the film later, but in the moment though, like to me it seems like you're missing something if you just wait till the film room later to go back and talk about it. Like, in the moment, stop and talk about it. In the moment, jump up and down their ass. In the moment, get in their face and tell them what's wrong. Make them run it again. Make them do it again until they can figure it out. I'd be interested to have them talk about that a little bit, just on a, why do you do it that way?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, because let's face it, it's not as embarrassing to get yelled at in front of 5 people in your linebacker room, that chances are you might be a better player than all those guys there anyway, because you messed up, than it is to get yelled at in front of the whole team and all the other leaders of the team. And if you're not a leader, then all the leaders of the team.
Right.
Now we're having to stop practice, and I have to come over here and talk to you because you can't get through your stupid skull. You keep doing, Exhibit A or Exhibit B. Now, I don't know. Can you say stupid? Can you call somebody stupid on the practice field anymore? It's 2017. I mean, I grew up, in sports with the Tom Hanks from League of Their Own.
There's no crying in football.
No, when he told the story about how his manager, talked about, his butt and his head and all that. And his parents were there to see him. Like, that's how I grew up, sports. And, it was never viewed anything. Now, if you call somebody dumb, you might lose your job.
I got full on cursed out by a couple of coaches. I had one coach, we were practicing extra points, field goal stuff. And the coach told the kicker to aim the ball squarely at my ass, and literally had him kick the ball into my ass, because I was in there goofing around. I wasn't taking it seriously, because honestly, in a field goal practice, you take one step over and you stop. Like, it's not actually, you're not doing anything. So, but it got my attention. But my God, you tell a kicker as a coach to kick the ball into the rear end of one of the players today. Oh my God.
NFLPA is going to be on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you miss 2 ground balls in practice in baseball, you had to take 10 out of the pitching machine, no glove. You had to field 10 balls, no glove, out of the pitching machine if you missed 2 grounders during practice. Like, that was the rule.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I mean, if these guys are out there having these kind of bad practices, great, stop practice and make them run gassers, but force them to do something after practice. I mean, coach, like, I don't know.
And we don't know if they're not.
And you're right.
We don't know if they're not doing it.
You're right.
Nobody.
And that's why I say I'm not sitting here trying to sit back and say, oh, why didn't coach do this? I'm wanting that to be a question. Like, I just don't know how practices work on that level in the NFL, on a
Plus, they have all that
team.
film room like we talked about. I mean, it was fun to sort of, tell everybody our stories about how coaches were mean to us growing up. But, these guys are professionals. They've been doing it forever. They know what they're doing. We don't know if they are or not doing that. We would just like to know how they're going about, if they realize
correcting mistakes
how they're
in the moment and in practice. That I think is kind of, if they're having bad practices, okay, fine. Not just how do you correct the practice, but how are you correcting the guys when in the moment when they're having a bad practice or at least throughout the day. So it's just a question I have. All right. Well, before we jump into injury report, unless you have anything else, I think the big one that I want to sit on for just a second more is Jameis is coming back to play. He's not sitting this game out. He said in his press conference earlier that he wants to play. His mindset is that he's going to play. This kid just wants to play. And, for all the hubbub that went back and forth about Jameis, I mean, man, I think everybody who plays in the NFL has to have that kind of mindset, but it's just something you love hearing. And the fact that he got out there, man, I mean, he was shooting darts today, and he was firing these things out. Like, it's almost like he wanted that on tape. But I got to tell you, Ren, it makes me nervous. Knowing that Jameis is going to go out there and play, it makes me a little bit nervous.
Why?
Okay, I'll say this. I trust them. I trust them that if they're putting Jameis out there, that means that he's actually ready to play. That he's been medically cleared, that this isn't like a varsity blues where the coach has gone in there and said, just shoot him up and get him ready to play to get him out there. Like, that he's actually medically cleared, he's ready to play, that he feels good. But at the same time, and we talked about this earlier this week, I don't want to see them rush Jameis back. I want Jameis for the next 10, 15 years, not just for the Buffalo Bills game. So I trust them. It makes me a little bit nervous, just being honest, on the inside a little bit. My God, if he goes out and gets hurt again and screws up the shoulder even more than it already is,
you can't
get ready for next week. Things are going to blow up.
And I've heard this on a few podcasts too, where people you can't injure it anymore, and they're like, and the podcaster's like, oh, I don't get that, I don't understand. Well, it's there's nothing to understand. He strained his AC joint. That is as far as what he can do to the AC joint. That is the worst you can do damage. Now, could he go out there and break his ankle? Yeah, he could. Could he go out there and dislocate his shoulder? Sure. Could he break his collarbone? Yeah. But as far as the AC joint goes, which where the injury is, it's not. That's it. That's as far. Like, you snap your leg in half, like, you can't re-snap it. You can't snap it and worse. Like, you can't snap it again. He's not. The injury he has now cannot get any worse because it just can't get any worse. Can he get another injury? Of course. Can he get another injury to the shoulder? Of course. But him playing, like, all those other things that could happen could also happen if he didn't have a strained AC joint. So it's
very true. Very true. And you're probably right. And there's the thing. And that's what I mean when I say I trust them. You're probably 100% right. Just, it makes me just kind of go, okay, let's. I hope he does well. I hope that he's really ready to go. I trust him that he is, but I hope that he's ready to go when he does all that. So
I am glad that he got a full practice in instead of being like a game time decision where he tried to go today and like, I just, I could throw, but I just can't put all the velocity on it. And the team is like, okay, you're questionable. You get to rest Saturday, and we'll see how you feel. We'll go out there Sunday early, do some warm-up tosses, get in the uniform, throw the ball around, make a decision. That I'm glad that he was be able to go full force, and they got to watch him really closely, like you said, in a 2-hour practice. That makes me feel a lot better than if he was a game-time go decision.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Because we all know that Jameis is the guy where if his arm's falling off, he's still going to say, I'll go in, Coach. I'll go in.
I'm Jameis,
good.
You only have 3 limbs. It's all right, Coach. I'm good to go. I can throw with the other one. I can throw with my foot.
Merely a flesh wound.
It's merely a flesh wound. All right, well, Ren, why don't we go ahead and take a look at the injury report and wrap up this edition of Buck in the News.
All right.
Very interesting to me to look at least as far as the Buccaneers go. Looks like Josh Robinson, Ryan Russell are out. Josh Robinson still with a concussion. Ryan Russell with a shoulder injury. They did not participate. Looks like actually Josh Robinson participated on Wednesday and did not participate Thursday and Friday, so he must have had a concussion midweek at some point. But those guys are out. Now, Noah Spence is once again on the injury report, which we all know he's got a shoulder thing. He had limited participation Wednesday and Thursday, had full participation today, and on the injury report that they put out to the media, he's listed as questionable. However, on Buccaneers.com on the website, yep, Noah Spence is listed as out, even though he had full.
With TJ Ward last week,
right?
And he ended up playing. Remember?
I do. Yes, that's absolutely true. So, just an interesting note. So, I think we can assume the one that they actually put out to the media is wrong. Oddly, Buccaneers.com tends to have bad information, like their roster doesn't seem to be as immediately updated a lot of times as we feel like it should be. So, but I'm going to go with
Chris Baker is still listed as a defensive end.
Yeah, trying to figure out who's in what position sometimes can be a little weird because they have those just all jacked up. But so Noah Spence, I expect Noah Spence to play.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. Other than that, everybody else on the injury report is all listed as questionable, which questionable is kind of the new probable. They changed what they put on injury reports this year, but questionable is kind of that new probable. Quan Alexander, full participation all week. We probably look for him to be removed in the coming weeks, probably even the next week. He will be back. It looks like Robert Ayers, limited participation on Thursday, full participation today. He will probably also play. Levante David, of course, he played last week. We'll look to him to play. Darius Glanton, turns out, was out with a hamstring, had a hamstring injury. Only was listed on till today. Yeah.
Right.
So it looks like he'll be a go. Keith Tandy looks like he might be back. TJ Ward, once again, looks like will be back. And Jameis Winston, although he's listed as questionable, Dirk Cutter has obviously come out and said he will be starting. So that's the injury report.
Yeah. Keith Tandy last week was limited all the way through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and he ended up not dressing.
Mm-hmm.
TJ Ward was limited all the way through and ended up dressing. But this time, Tandy and Ward on Friday were full participation. Like you said, we expect them back. We know Jameis Winston is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more than likely Levante David, definitely Quan, unless he pulls his hammy going up and down the ramp from the stairs from the airplane.
Right.
Everything should be good for him. Robert Ayers, I think that's just since he did sit out a little bit on Wednesday and then Thursday, you had to report it, because you have to.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just more of sort of a veteran, bump and bruise. If he was like a first year or second year player, he probably would have been full participation. But he doesn't need to get so many reps. He knows what he's doing, so he doesn't need those reps for getting in the right gap and things like that. Or maybe he does, given the Arizona game. But like I said, I think that's just a veteran thing. So the only surprise is Darius Glanton popping up Friday with limited participation with the hamstring. And even if he doesn't go, which if I had to guess, I would say that they don't dress him. But with Beckwith and now Quan's back and Levante David, they really don't need him. They might want to keep him to go for special teams because he plays a lot of special teams. But yeah, so it's almost a full go. We just got Ryan Russell, like a third string defensive end, and Josh Robinson, a third string cornerback, third string safety.
But a big special teams guy.
We're almost about 100% there.
Yeah. So let's take a look and see what this actually means for our potential inactives for the game. We need 7 of them. And
All right.
we know that Ryan Russell will be out. Josh Robinson will be out. Most likely, Leonard Wester will be out on the offensive line. Joe Hawley will be inactive as he has been all season. But that leaves 3 more spots. Who do you got filling in those 3 spots, Ren?
Eau Claire,
Okay.
who we forgot about last week. We had it between
Silver and Peyton Barber.
And Peyton Barber, and then we forgot that Eau Claire just had his first active and got him for 1 play and blocked, and they scored a touchdown. So he's got a pretty good streak going. But I think Eau Claire. So what's that make that 5?
That's 5.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
5.
we need 2 more.
Probably Silver. No, let's see. Who would be 2 more?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with Isaiah Johnson.
Okay.
Who they moved up from the practice squad, when Ward and Tandy both went down.
He's a safety off the practice squad, right?
Safety off the practice squad. I fully expect Ward to go, and I give a better than 50% chance that Tandy goes, so that puts Isaiah Johnson inactive.
Right.
And should I?
You think they may waive him and try to bust him back down to the practice squad if he doesn't get snatched up?
Once the 2 safeties get healthy, that's exactly what happened with Isaiah Johnson.
Yeah.
But until they need to, and what's the move is going to be, I think, is week 8, if not sooner, but definitely by week 8, when they can bring back Ryan Griffin.
Mm-hmm.
They'll need a spot. They'll need a spot for him on the 53-man roster, and I think that'll be Isaiah Johnson. But given injuries, who knows what's going to happen this Sunday? So he might get bumped down earlier. So that makes 6. I think Isaiah Johnson will be inactive, and I guess I don't remember who was last week. I'm probably just going to go with Silver.
Mm-hmm.
Silver again.
I don't know. This one's hard. We
I'm
talked
go
about
with Blanton. I'm going with Blanton.
I was going to say, with Peyton Barber, where he participates in special teams and stuff, but with this one with Glanton, it's a hamstring injury. It just popped up really last night / today. With the return of Quan and Levante, Beckwith is still there. I don't think there's any reason for them to chance anything with Glanton. Put him on inactive. To me, I think Glanton is probably that guy taking up the last spot. I think you're probably spot on with Eau Claire and Johnson. Eau Claire actually might dress, in which case it might be somebody else. But I think that's probably going to be our 7 as far as the inactives come Sunday.
Yeah. Plus, the Buccaneers are extremely cautious about soft tissue injuries, hamstring injuries. So if they don't have to dress him, why do it?
Yeah, especially if you're getting your starters back. So, all right. Well, Ren, I think that's going to wrap up this edition of Buc'In the News. Any final thoughts before we sign off before the game on Sunday?
If seeing what Buffalo is, run the ball, doesn't really have any weapons in the receiving game. LaShawn McCoy, but he has not had a very good year thus far. The Bills have been winning games off timely turnovers and stingy defense. If the Buccaneers take care of the ball and run the ball, I think, these drives that Arizona put up against us, the first 3, like 79, 85, and 92, I don't think Buffalo has the horses to do that. They just can't get the ball down the field through the air when needed. They need short field to score. So I'm expecting a Bucs victory, but it could be a very, very low scoring game. So make your kicks, Patrick Murray. Make your kicks.
Yeah, I definitely think we'll see Patrick Murray this week.
17, 13, 15 game.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Yeah, this could very much be that Patriots game all over again. In a lot of ways, as far as the dependency upon the kicker. So I agree. All right, well, that's going to do it for us, guys, this week, Buc'In the News. I am Brent Allen. You can find me at Brent Allen Live on Twitter and on Facebook. Ren, you are at Rendaxt, Ren_DAXT. On Twitter, you can follow the show at ThePeterCast, Facebook.com/ThePeterCast. Shoot us an email to ThePeterCast@gmail.com. Ren, would you like to say your little tagline?
Nope, you ruined it. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Forget it.
Sorry.
No, you're not. Whatever.
A little bit.
Whatever. You got to get back to your wife. I hear you. Just wrap this up and go.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for us. Bryn is always down to talk Bucs football, and I'm down to talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. So hit me up. We'll see you guys for the Instant Cast on Sunday night, 9 o'clock after the game. And until then, guys, as we always say, go Bucs.